There are roughly 43,000 new cases of thyroid cancer every year in the United States. Women are 3 times more likely to get thyroid cancer than men. The incidence of thyroid cancer has been on the rise for the past 30 years and is now the fastest growing cancer in women. The thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland located at the base of the neck that hugs the trachea. The thyroid controls many key components of life, including regulation of temperature, hormones, sending out signals, even something like pumping blood throughout our body. At the beginning of this year, I saw my primary care provider for a routine well visit, where she palpated a rather large nodule on the left side of my thyroid. This prompted an ultrasound, which unfortunately revealed rather terrifying results for me. Ultrasounds are graded depending on blood supply to the in-question lesion, the size, the shape of it, if it's tall or wide. Unfortunately, my lesion was a TR5, which was the most concerning. I also had a secondary lesion on the other side, which was a TR4, which was also rather concerning. With the healthcare system being the way that it is, and I'm speaking in terms of the American healthcare system as I'm located in Indiana within the United States, it took an additional month for me to be referred to a thyroid specialist, a surgeon, who then, after meeting me, ordered the biopsy, which took an additional month. In the 3 months that I was waiting for the biopsy, my thyroid was rapidly enlarging to the point where I had difficulty swallowing. In 1 month's time, I lost 10 pounds. I noticed that some of my lymph nodes were enlarged, particularly my supraclavicular, which is located right above the clavicle at the base of the neck, as well as my popliteal lymph nodes that are located behind the knee. As a nurse practitioner, I know that lymphadenopathy is generally not a good sign, especially when faced with concern for thyroid cancer. My background in healthcare prior to becoming a nurse practitioner was as a registered nurse in oncology. Whether it is fortunate or unfortunate, I did have a rather large knowledge base when it comes to things concerning cancer. I know how difficult the healthcare system is, and it has pained me throughout the years to see just how deficient our healthcare system is, particularly when faced with something life-changing or even life-ending. My role was typically on the side of healthcare, caring for my patients. When I worked in the infusion department, giving chemotherapy to patients, or when I worked in hospice, holding the hand of my patients as they breathed their last breath. I will say, the other side of healthcare, the side that my patients face every day, was very difficult. After my biopsy, those few days of waiting were terrifying. I was expecting a rather grim diagnosis. Given the size of my lesions, my ultrasound results, and frankly, the way that I felt, the weight that I lost, my swollen lymph nodes, night sweats, I just was not feeling very good at all. And I actually had pain in my neck. It felt like there was something stuck in my throat. I was preparing myself for the worst. The day that I got the results of the biopsy, I'll never forget. I just finished running 6 miles. My husband left just a few hours before to go on a trip, as we both are avid mountain bikers, and he had signed up this year to do an Enduro Series race. He did not want to go. I told him I really wanted him to go because there really wasn't anything to do except sit and wait. The results showed that I likely had lymphoma. not something that I was expecting. I was expecting papillary carcinoma or follicular. I was telling myself, if I were to get cancer, thyroid cancer is the one to get. It usually doesn't kill you, is what I kept telling myself. There are two types of lymphoma. There's Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Based on the pathology of the slide, the way the cells looked, the type of cells shown, it looked like I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma of the thyroid is very rare, less than 2%. As a realist, I knew I had to get my affairs in order and to prepare for what may come. I met with an oncologist that I've worked closely with for years. Typically for thyroid lymphoma, you do not remove your thyroid because I was having such pain at the base of my neck and I could not swallow. And due to the weight that I was losing, it was recommended that I would have a total thyroidectomy, which means removing the entire thyroid. At this point in time, I already knew that I had hypothyroidism, which is where your thyroid is underactive. What I didn't know is why. Why was my thyroid underactive? It's estimated that 90 to 95% of hypothyroidism is caused by the autoimmune disease Hashimoto's. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism several years ago and was placed on thyroid medication. Up until this point, only the very basic thyroid labs were drawn, which is typically a TSH and a T4. No one had checked to see if I had antibodies against my thyroid. It was at this time that I teamed with the physician that I work with, who is also my doctor, and had her run antibody testing on me. I wish I could say I was surprised, but I wasn't. My antibodies were through the roof, indicating that I have the autoimmune disease Hashimoto's. And given the size of my thyroid, it developed into Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I had my surgery date, but it was over a month away, and I still was not eating. I was referred for a second opinion through another provider. I wish I could say that the experience was a pleasant one, but it was not. I met with a young thyroid specialist at a cancer care center. Needless to say, it was a very surreal day as I sat there waiting for my turn to be called. He proceeded to tell me that the thyroid, or any issues with the thyroid, would not cause difficulty swallowing, and that maybe this was all just in my head. It was at this moment that I realized I want to be the kind of provider that looks for the cause of why things happen and not just waits for the devastation to affect my patients and then give them medication for the rest of their life. I have been watching podcasts and reading lots of books pertaining to functional medicine, which is a systems biology approach in looking for the root cause of chronic disease rather than just giving medications and accepting the disease. I joined the Institute of Functional Medicine, and I also applied for their certification program so I could become a certified functional medicine nurse practitioner. I was beyond ecstatic when I was accepted into the program. I remember my husband saying, "Tara, if you're going to be doing every 3-week chemotherapy regimens and working full-time, how are you going to be able to go to school at the same time?" And I told him, the reason why I need to do this is because I want to survive. And there has got to be a better way of taking care of somebody with lymphoma than just the regular conventional medicine approach. But I didn't know where to look or how to start. Fast forward to the day of my thyroid surgery. I was terrified. I've been through surgery before, but for some reason, this one, particularly because of the COVID situation, the fact that I couldn't see my husband for hours and I was back there by myself after the surgery, Following the surgery, I was watched very closely, as a complete thyroidectomy can cause issues with the parathyroid, so your levels, particularly your calcium levels, need to be monitored closely. Several hours later, I was discharged and I went home and I waited. I waited for what seemed like an eternity. All I thought about as I was waiting was all of the hundreds of patients that I took care of over the years who were so strong and so brave. All I thought about was that I wanted to make them proud. It was about a week later, and I got the phone call about the results. I did not have cancer. This is something that, of course, I was beyond grateful. Beyond grateful. After all, I told my kids I had cancer. So sure that that's what was going on. I remember thinking that I was not blessed. I was grateful. Having cancer does not mean that you're not blessed. That was very important. That distinction was very important to me. I remember feeling rather lost since I couldn't yet run. I was walking in the woods, one of my absolute favorite things to do. And I remember breaking down halfway through my walk and just sobbing. Don't get me wrong, I was grateful, but I also didn't understand. I know how important family history is. And unfortunately, both of my parents, grandparents, and frankly, many aunts and uncles have passed, mostly due to cancer. I didn't understand why I don't have cancer. Again, I thought about the hundreds of patients that I've cared for over the years. And I thought about the incidence of thyroid cancer and it being on the rise. And that I would rather have thyroid cancer than for one of my patients to have thyroid cancer. As I stood there in the woods, I thought once again about functional medicine and how important it is to uncover the root cause of disease, or as we prefer to say, conditions that we're expressing. I knew that my journey, this new journey that I was on, was the right path. So for that, I feel very blessed. I've had some rough patches throughout my recovery. One of my vocal cords was partially paralyzed, and so I could barely speak for several weeks, if not a month or more. I also have been battling with extreme fatigue, as well as cold intolerance, to where my hands and feet almost ache badly. But again, I am grateful. If you've been following me for a while, then you know I make cooking videos here, recipes, delicious meals that you can easily make in your own kitchen. Needless to say, I haven't been doing very much cooking for this past year. I was thinking about the future of this channel, as I am very inspired to continue to provide content that is both nutritious and delicious. I'm thinking about having recipes that are geared more towards different types of conditions that we may be expressing, like those with rheumatoid arthritis, or a diabetic dinner, somebody with kidney disease, or maybe liver disease. I would love to know ideas that you have for future content on this channel, like recipe themes, or a day in the life, or any ideas that you have. Just drop them in the comments below. A lot of pressure put on females, and I was feeling that pressure. I had somebody tell me that I was disgusting, and my response was, I don't have cancer. Sometimes it can be hard to find the right words of what you should say. In my experience, sometimes not saying anything is better. If right now you are battling cancer, whether it be thyroid cancer or any other type of cancer, I will leave some links in the description box below of some places that you can go for some resources and for some support. Of course, feel free to communicate with me in the comment section below. I would love to know your story. That's all I have for you today. I hope that wherever you're watching this from, in whatever part of the world you're in, you're having a great day, and that you know that you are not alone, and that whatever you are dealing with, be it physical or mental, you are not alone, and there are answers. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.